I'll try to watch what's going on here from here. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're coming to you live right here from inside the main build facility of Bubba's Exotic Motorsports. I'm Tom. Ladies' man's right there by the lighting kits. We all know the Master Bubba, who turned 30 this weekend, man. Congratulations, Bub.
Yeah,
Happy
that is
birthday.
right. That is right, man. So we are here right now. It is Monday morning at BEM, and wouldn't you know, we are 50 years apart, having a 67 and a 2017. So which one would you prefer? That's the question.
This episode is brought to you by, ladies and gentlemen, Bubba's Exotic Motorsports. That's Bubba's Exotic Motorsports.com. How about that, Bubba? Moose is loose on the internet. Miss Outlaw Boutique, ladies and gentlemen, MissOutlawBoutique.com. Ladies, man, you look good right there. Miss Outlaw Boutique, Miss Outlaw Boutique, MSOutlawBoutique.com. Orange County Choppers, Bub, they're back tonight. It's the season finale. You were telling us on Saturday.
Yeah, that's right. 10 p.m. tonight, Discovery Channel, American Chopper.
And you said it's going to be the Yankee bike. You've seen some behind-the-scenes stuff of it already. You say it's looking good, huh, man?
Yeah, looking really good.
Can't wait to see it. You remember when they built that bike with Jose Posada and all those guys? That was 10 years ago.
It was a long time, yeah.
Where does time go, buddy?
Just disappears.
It flies. And it's the one thing we can't recapture, isn't it? Yep. Doesn't that suck, man?
Yep.
So you got to live life in a positive way, man, no matter what happens, ladies and gentlemen. How about that? Exotics on Los Alamos, Bub. Let's talk a little bit about it. That is going to be another big event with the Supercar Saturdays.
Yeah, so that is November 11th. That's coming up in about 5 weeks from now, 6 weeks from now. It's going to be a crazy event. This is literally the first event that's going to be done in Fort Lauderdale, Exotics on Los Alamos. It is a crazy, crazy street where there are a lot of high-end bars, a lot of restaurants, a lot of companies down there. It is a go-to spot, whether you are just going for the day to have fun, whether you're going to eat and drink, whether you're going to shop. It is a key place in downtown Fort Lauderdale, and let me tell you, a lot of high-end rides, a lot of money run down that street. And I'll tell you what, we're gonna be there bringing out some of the craziest rides you guys will see in the streets of South Florida, so we're really looking forward to it.
It's gonna be a lot of fun, Bub. I cannot wait to be part of that and all of that stuff that Floyd's got going on down there. Bub, let's talk a little bit about this. You wanted to talk, by the way, Grandier, who is the exotic car rental company of this area, Bub, this is part of one of the very cool cars you can get on rental from them, man, along with Bentleys and Maseratis and Ferrari, all of that, man.
Yeah.
So this is straight from there. This is out of one of your clients' collections. Let's talk a little bit about them, Bub.
So, yeah, man, so as you see it, C2 Corvette, C7 Corvette, these things, you know, when you really want to get down into it, how far are the differences in a 50-year span, right? So now we're talking the Corvette has always been GM's Mac Daddy. That has been their top of the end line. And let's say, for example, you have things in this 1967 Corvette. This is not a 427, 435 horse car, which is like the most desirable that draws stupid numbers at auction blocks. This is a 327 all numbers matching car, but it was a fully optioned car. So it does have factory air conditioning, power steering, four-wheel disc brakes. It does have a lot of great features, minus little things like power windows, power locks. So you really get down into it from a drivetrain standpoint. You think about that. So 1967 all the way up to 17, how far have these two cars really evolved in terms of like four-wheel disc brakes, power steering, air conditioning? It's all there. That's here.
That's right.
But technology has brought us crazy light years difference in what the two perform like. So one has all those features. This one has all those features, but this is just hands down flawless in its operation and function.
It really is, Bub. The comments are starting to come in. Joe Kramer's watching. Good morning, Joe, out there in Vienna, Fairfax County, Virginia. Mark Hoffman and Tom says, and Tom Lloyd, don't scratch the hood of my C2. I promise not to. The BEM dirt track driver, Bub, was on the road this weekend, and he is back with us here. He loves the black C2. He loves that. Jack Bias says, out there in Ontario, Canada, he loves his Bub. I just heard you say C6 and C3 and C52 and C5, and what does that mean?
So they're all different year range and model numbers, essentially, of the Corvettes. So like you had, for example, the C1, where it all started, Corvette first generation. That's what the C and the 1 stands for.
Oh, okay.
That was like 53 to 62, and then you have C2, 63 to 67.
C2.
Yeah, C2, which is this one here, and then C3, C4, C5, C6, C7, and so on. So we are still in the C7 generation right now, looking to bring out that new 2018/19 Corvettes, which are going to go to a possible mid-engine application. A lot of up and down about that in the Corvette owner world. But I'll tell you what, this is a C2 here being a 67. This is a C7 being a 2017.
Bub, and another thing that I want to ask you about, Joe Kramer says, good morning, Bub. Bub, I want to ask you about this. There is a lot of questions I have to ask you about these cars. You're very knowledgeable. There's not much you can't talk about when it comes to cars and technology. This is a front drive, rear wheel platform, meaning that the motor's up front and the tires turn out back. You're correct. There has been some speculation about the C8 Corvettes coming with a mid-mount engine. What does that mean, and why is it of benefit, please?
So, as everybody knows, and clearly all the way back to the first generations of Corvettes, even prior to the C2 that's sitting here, they've always been front engine cars. They've been transmissions mounted directly to the engine and then drive shaft operating a rear axle. So it's always been a front engine, rear wheel drive car. 80% of your weight on these cars was in the front end, and that made these cars dangerous to drive. It's all the way to today.
Yes.
It's made the cars very dangerous, especially for what they're doing now in terms of power. This one's starting at a base model of 455 horsepower stock off the showroom floor, so easily you can push that number over the 600 mark with forced induction and things like that. But then also when you get into, for example, like the Z06 Corvettes, today's C7 Z06 Corvettes coming base right off the showroom floor, 650, 650, so 650 horse, 650 foot-pounds of torque. And those cars are absolute animals. And if you are not a skilled and knowledgeable driver, there's no chance you can run that car like what it can do, because they just still do not plant the power like they should. So now that today's technology is evolving in that way, so you have to think these guys are getting these C7s, these Z06s at 650, 650. These things are coming out so strong that by the time you really get in there, and everybody wants performance and upgrades, you always want more power. You can bump these things up by doing different, the factory superchargers. You can overdrive the pulleys. You can do long tube headers and off-road X pipes or catless delete pipes, full exhaust systems with tunes. You can easily have those cars in a 750, 800 horse range like that. Literally just bolt-ons and like that. But it gets to a point where it becomes totally uncontrollable. It doesn't matter if you're going 0 to 60 or 60 to 120. The cars just start spinning all down the road.
So, Bub, so many things to ask you about that. When you talk about overdriving a supercharger, what does that mean?
So you're actually you're going to a smaller size pulley. And superchargers that are a root style supercharger, meaning like an intake manifold position, not like a side mount setup. Those operate off of, well, they both operate off of belts, but they operate off of pulleys that run off your main drive from a belt. So when you work this pulley size, whether you go up or whether you go down in size, you are changing essentially the speed of what the supercharger is doing. And that also changes how much boost you create in the motor. So you can go from 7 pounds, 8 pounds factory to 12 pounds, 15 pounds, all the way up to 20 pounds. Again, every one of those boost increments have to be something internal you have to do in terms of the motor, whether it's upgrading fuel system or going heavy in boost. You need to upgrade the whole inside of the motor so you don't blow the thing apart.
So, Bub, do me a favor, please double check your mic. We've got people saying they're trying to understand what you're saying, and it sounds like you're sitting on your mic. They're trying to get this informational.
I'm sitting on it, but my mic is dead.
Your mic is dead?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll share mine with you. How's that?
All right.
Does that work?
Mine's dead. Sorry, guys.
Sorry. That's okay. I'll share mine with Tim, ladies and gentlemen. So, Bub, let's talk a little bit about, and that's why you have lapel mics like this. Thank you, Jeff Graham. By the way, Jeff, I tried to answer your call. I was walking in the door, and I saw you were calling, and I tried to get to your call. I'm trying to monitor this.
He's not going to hear you if you're talking away from your mic.
Absolutely. So, Bub, we're saying when you overdrive something, you're actually using a smaller pulley on the supercharger itself. Is that correct?
Yeah, which is essentially making it spin faster.
So making the supercharger spin faster. Now, Bub, again, we were talking about the C2, the C3, the C5, the C6. Are you a fan of the potential movement of the motor from the front to the rear or the mid-mount engine on these cars? And if so, why?
So, personally, yes. Only because I know how far these engines are going in terms of their power and what they can produce. And it's getting to a point where they are getting dangerous. It's getting to a point where even skilled drivers have a hard time running these cars.
Now, Jeff, please tell me if Jeff, please let me know if this is better for you to hear out there as well. Bub, another question that I had for you is when you look at this car came stock with how many horsepower?
300.
300 horsepower.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there were different engine options, but 300 was your base for the 327s.
So is there a difference really, Bub, between the block configuration of these cars and, say, these cars?
Yeah, totally different. It's not only gone from, the old, full, cast iron, heavy, holds a lot of weight, holds a lot of material, holds a lot of temperature. It went from that setup to fully aluminum. So it's lightweight. It can withstand and handle a lot more heat and temperatures. Head gaskets, man, how often do you hear people talk about head gaskets being blown today? you probably don't hear that word at all anymore. When it's things like this, you're cruising on a summer day, boom, head gasket.
And what's typically a good cause for head gasket malfunctions?
You know, it's funny because it's head gasket malfunctions come from one thing. They come from heat, and heat typically comes from uncarbureted cars. Not so much cooling system efficiency, but air fuel delivery, so ignition related.
So a lot of people don't understand that when you see people with a bunch of fans on the front of their car, it's not so much a cooling problem, Bub. It is
Typically fuel delivery or ignition.
exactly what it is, ladies and gentlemen. So keep that in mind as you're working on your classic cars and hot rods. We don't have those problems, Bub, and I never thought about this. We don't have those problems with the advent of the aluminum engine and the EFI management systems.
Yeah, they're you know, and that's what's nice about fuel injection is they're always self-monitoring. So there's never a point in time where there's a sensor that goes out of its parameter that doesn't get brought back in within range of where it should be because of the other sensors tied in, all communicating back to one brain.
Corvette, Bub, has always been America's sports car. How is it held up commonly against, say, some of the exotics? We do feature a lot of the exotics here. How does it hold up against some of the exotics out there?
You know, it's pretty solid, man. The Corvettes have always been pretty strong in their arena. But you know, they're two different animals. You know, you have like the C7 Corvettes that you know, 0 to 60 times are in the 3.5, 3.8 range, even lower with the Z06s, and that's getting into that supercar class, which is, you know, registered at 3 seconds, 0 to 60 times. So with the right mods and the right upgrades, you can get those cars in that supercar 0 to 60 3 seconds flat range. But again, how hard is it going to be to plant this kind of power to the ground once you start reaching those types of numbers?
And then when you move the motor back, Bub, towards the mid area, does that help get that power down on the ground a little bit better, do you think?
Oh, 100%. It's going to turn these cars into more of a full throttle, wide open throttle, exotic design style car. Mid-engine design is going to be more of a well-balanced car. It's not going to be all your weight up front. It's going to be almost dead center in the center of the car. And, you know, that just helps for everything from braking to handling to planning the power to, you know, getting it down to the ground and launching it, every piece of it.
So, Bub, are you in favor of this moving over to, say, a mid-engine platform, do you think? You know, there's a lot of purists, just like the purists with Harley-Davidson, who say, oh, my God, they're going to go to water-cooled and blah, blah, blah. When, in fact, even on their big bikes, they've kept all the water cooling up top. You can't see any of the fans, can't see any of the hoses. They've gone a long way to make that look very traditional and retain those roots and that sound. Will Corvette follow those same lines?
Yeah, it's going to be beneficial, man. It's you know, there's going to be those guys out there that'll never want to get away from the front engine design, and it's probably going to be an option from GM which way you buy the car. It might be two different styles, so it might be a limited run, it might be production run, but you know, it's definitely something that I would look at going into a mid-engine design.
How about, Bub, in terms of the V8 taking on, say, the V10s or the V12s in terms of horsepower and torque? Tell us a little bit what makes those engines different. A V8 produces horsepower from a different perspective, more, I think, torque, is that right?
Yeah.
And the V10s or 12s produce it more from a rev, correct?
Yeah, so they're two different animals. You know, it's you're working with V8s versus you know, V10s, V12s. It's just the way that the two motors run are totally opposite. It's, you know, one produces power that spins out of the hole because it produces so much power and torque right away, instantaneously, where the exotics that, you know, are higher end, the V8 or the V10s, the V12s, those are higher end RPM range motors. They're meant to be from, say, 5,500 up to 8,000, 10,000, 12,000 RPM range. And it takes a second to get there, but when it's there, the things are just animals and they're screaming. That's where their power band is. These cars, it's right away. It's from idle to about 6,500.
So how is that in terms of motor longevity? In other words, I was always of the opinion, and I come from the old school, Jeff Graham, you'll appreciate this, Jack, you'll appreciate this. Some of our older guys, my age, I'm 57 now, we came from the thinking, Bob, that running high RPMs in a V8 caused everything to unravel and fall apart. How is that in today's society?
It's, you know, the motors are built to withstand it. It's, you know, for example, the new Ford GT350R Mustangs, those are good for 8,500 RPM. So coming out of a V8 mass production, that's a pretty respectable number, and that's just stock off the showroom floor, which, you know, has to be more on the conservative side than what the motor can truly handle because it's got to sell to the whole public.
One of the things I noticed, Bub, the other day is they were saying that this particular car I was looking at had 6-bolt mains. That's a lot of bolts running across the bottom of those main caps.
Yeah, it holds them together really strong, man. It just shows they can withstand a beating.
And it says they're ARP bolts, so that they're going to be smaller bolts. They're not going to be the big 5/8 or 9/16 that we're accustomed to, right?
Yeah.
So where do you see that in terms of the technology? Does that allow higher RPMs? Is that what kind of holds everything together down there?
Yeah, it's, those are more from a high RPM slash pressure standpoint. When you're just out cruising, things like that, none of that's going to make too much of a difference. But when you ask for that wide open throttle power and demand, that's when it's going to work.
So, Bub, are you a fan of the exotics kind of power band or the American car power band, or a fan of both?
Definitely a fan of both. They're just two different animals. It's two different driving styles, two different driving feels, two different ways to drive the car. You're working with something like this, a C7 Corvette, for example, where you go and hit full throttle. You need to think about that before you do it. You need to make sure that if you're on the street, for example, and you're going to give it a hard run, you need to be probably centered in a lane, not going to want to be on a road that's got any sort of angular curvature to it. Because the cars are going to be loose, they're going to be all over the road. So you're going to have enough time trying to track the car straight on a smooth, flat piece of road versus you think about, for example, like driving a Lamborghini, you pull up to that light. It doesn't matter if you're on an angle, you can run an all-wheel drive system, V10 or V12 setup, and you can go full throttle right out of the hole and not have to worry about immediately spinning around and going into the middle of the ditch.
And Bub, one of the things, these Corvettes come pretty locked down, as do a lot of cars. They come pretty locked down. You offer that service to your clients that bring their Corvettes in. You unlock them so that they don't have all of the traction control and all of the performance modifications pulled down out of them, set at the factory.
Yeah, which is, again, it makes them even that harder to drive because it literally allows you to have a car that is tuned and unlocked. So, for example, we talk about all the time doing custom tunes. These cars have literally torque management by gear. So, for example, if this car we know is rated at 455 horse, just over that 500 foot-pound mark in terms of torque, well, you can literally limit this thing. So even as a driver, your foot input going into that throttle could be wide open. It could be 100% throttle that you're asking for and demanding, but this motor's producing that 500 foot-pounds of torque, right? So let's say at 100% throttle, this motor can generate 500 foot-pounds. Well, these things actually have a limit per gear. So for example, the stock tune might have this thing set so that even though you're doing that 100% throttle, they're only allowing you to receive 255 foot-pounds of torque. And that's just to keep the car safe in terms of in a straight line, running it down the track, running it down the street, whatever it is you're doing and asking that car to do, it is torque limit by gear. And that is what kind of sucks when you get these things off the showroom floor, but makes them that much funner by simply doing a handheld tuner. You can literally plug them into the car and unlock all of those parameters, do a custom tune with inside that, and you can literally open up every one of those gears. Me, I always go all the way on them with my torque limits. So you're essentially driving a car that if you have 1,200 horsepower, you're getting 1,200 horsepower down to that rear. It's not being limited by different sensors along the way.
Very good stuff, Bub. Bub, for the Andriatis brothers, I watched you do a very, very cool build, kind of a retro build that took an old school 62, 63 body and set it down on top of a C5. This was some years ago.
C5, yeah.
C5 Corvette. Talk a little bit about that.
So, that was a rebody design. That was a 67 Corvette, same thing that's sitting here on the floor. And that was actually a 67 body that was dropped down onto a C5 chassis. So that was from 97 to 04. Pretty solid chassis for their time. Just at that 400 horsepower mark, you could get them up to that 556 range, depending on what adders you had on that thing. And, it made for a lot of fun. So it gave you that old school looks and styling, but it gave you that modern performance.
You did a lot of cool stuff to that top, the body match, the target top and everything. You made a lot of fun, cool adjustments to that car to really make it very special. Was it blue, if I recall correctly? Yeah.
Yep, blue.
That was a neat car, wasn't it?
Yep.
The future Corvettes in your mind.
What about it?
Where do you think they'll go? What do you think will happen from here?
Well, it's just like anything else. It's going to keep evolving. It's going to start getting more aerodynamic, more lower to the ground, sleeker, wider. Technology is going to keep these things pushing forward, and the advancements are never going to stop.
Bub, I noticed a couple of body lines on the front of this are off. Does this car, did it come from the factory like that? Do you think it was involved in an accident? What are your thoughts?
So I don't want to bash it, but GM's paint quality production, since I would say like 2008, 2009, 2010, that era, has just been off. It has not been spot on. It's very orange peely in terms of the quality of the paint, and that's just mass production. That's the way it goes, but that's the way that they're building them now. So no, this has never been wrecked, never been hit, but this is exactly the way these things roll right off the showroom floor.
And Bub, one other question, because I know a lot of people wanted to know some of the historical stuff about this as well. What did you think, I guess, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when the floor collapsed at the Kentucky Museum and so many of the original one-off Corvettes were lost?
Well, it's a part of the history that's gone, and there's really not much you can do about it except for pull out what you can, save it, and that's it. And I don't know what the current standing of that is now, but I think they've actually kept most of those cars in the condition as they were when they were actually damaged.
Oh, so they'll go back on display in that condition as
Right.
part of the lineage and part of the history.
Right.
That's pretty interesting stuff, Bub. Well, Bub, thank you so much. We appreciate you bringing us a little bit of the factual stuff between the 67, and the 17
Yep.
Chevrolet Corvettes. Long may they live, Bub. They are iconic. They are very, very American as well, correct, Bub?
That's right.
Until Friday, Bub.
Just keep on doing it, Bubba style.
Ladies and gentlemen, this episode has been brought to you by technical difficulties, by dead batteries. And it's funny, you go through mic checks, ladies and gentlemen, and the next thing you know, you got a dead battery in your mic pack. I'll show you what, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of people don't get to see it. These are actually the mic packs that you use when you are filming. You can see these sit on a clip, and they sit inside. You tuck them down inside of your shirt physically, and they're very tiny and very small. And then you have a transmitter that walks over to a receiver and plugs into your audio equipment. There's a clip on the back of this, and you typically wear it in your back pocket. If you look at anybody that you see on Discovery as well, and like that, you'll see their back pocket always has something like this. Oftentimes, and I say this with all respect, women will wear their mic packs in the back right here in their bras. It's a true story. Watch when you see Orange County Choppers and you see Joni. You'll see hers is up high as well. It's a lot easier to move around than this kind of pulling up through the back of your shirt and hitting you. So there's some inside entertainment information. This episode has been brought to you by, ladies and gentlemen, Bubba's Exotic Motorsports. That's BubbasExoticMotorsports.com. Visit us online for over 30,000 parts, man. We had, Bub, I think, 800 hits just this week alone on the Capristo Huracan exhaust. Am I correct in that? Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. 800 hits on the Hurricane Lamborghini exhaust alone. It's pretty cool stuff, man. Go out there and check it out. It's really neat. And if you saw Friday's show, you'll see how finely crafted these pieces of exhaust really are. It's really cool stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Miss Outlaw Boutique, MS Outlaw Boutique. What's the matter, D? What's the matter, Bubba? Little man is sitting right here at the base of the floor, ladies and gentlemen, and he's trying to say something. I see him sitting there wanting to say something. You say whatever you want to say, Bubba. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. What, Bert? What? What's the matter? What? What do you want to say? Huh? We got to be careful because he's going to come after. Here he comes, ladies and gentlemen. The ladies' man's going to join us right here. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. Say hi to everybody, Bubba. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. The ladies' man makes his appearance. I know Mr. Mark Hoffman's happy out there. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. This episode has also been brought to you by Bubba's Miss Outlaw Boutique. That's MS Outlaw Boutique. MissOutlawBoutique.com, ladies and gentlemen. Miss Outlaw Boutique. Join her online for all the latest in accessories and apparel from Miss Outlaw Boutique. Exotics on Las Salas. Make sure you're there November 11th. We're going to have a lot of celebrities there. Going to be packed there. Monster Energy is going to be out. A lot of big people are going to be out there with us. Please come out and join us. Very cool event in Fort Lauderdale. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be very, very cool. And Orange County Choppers tonight. Season finale. The Yankees bike. Bub's released it. He's seen it. It's going to be pretty cool. 10 o'clock on Discovery, ladies and gentlemen, tonight. Let's reach out and touch somebody's life in a very positive manner if we can today, ladies and gentlemen. Doesn't matter how bad your day is, always keep others in front of you. Let's put shoes on somebody who has feet, who has holes in them. Let's feed somebody who's hungry. Ladies and gentlemen, right there at the corner of Citgo, 7-Eleven. Grab them a protein bar and a power shake and a protein shake or whatever you call them in a power bar. It's cheaper than your designer cup of coffee, ladies and gentlemen. And you know what? If someone's got their hands full, let's open the doors for them. Until Friday, ladies and gentlemen, let's keep on doing it Bubba style. Right on. Little man, you ready to go eat? Are you ready for some lunch, man?